Okay, today I'm going to demonstrate how to turn this murky pool water into crystal clean pool water using flocculent. And I'm going to do a step-by-step walkthrough so that nothing is left to the imagination. So the supplies that I have today, the most important, this is called clary flock, but whatever, it's flocculent. And this is a really large bottle, but we do it rather frequently. You're gonna need your pH testing kit too, and a pool testing kit, which also tests for the chlorine, and then pH up, or I just use baking soda. So those three things are gonna be really important in this process. You also need to know how many liters or gallons your pool has, because there are instructions on the flocculent that depend on that number. All right, so this is my testing kit. I usually give it a little bit of a rinse. You don't have to be in the water to do this. It's just an easier angle, and it feels nice to be in the water. So there's a little line that you may or may not be able to see. You want to make sure that the water's up to that line, more or less. And we've got little caps here that go on there too. So we're going to put 5 drops of the yellow in the yellow side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 5 drops of the red in the red side. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you just want to give them a little mix up. Shake it up. And then we can see our measurements over here. It's so hard to judge what category we're looking in. Like, I'd say probably this side is in whatever that says, 7.2, between 7.2 and 7 point whatever. I'm reading it backwards. This one's we definitely have a good level of chlorine. The most important thing for flock is to make sure that your pH is high enough. So in this case, I'm going to add some baking soda or pH up just to increase the alkalinity a little bit. Okay, so I put some baking soda in here. I don't know how much goes in, so I don't know. We've got a 6-gallon pool, probably about that much, let's say. You got to turn the jets on. So we'll do that here. And then the jets over here. So basically, you're just going to sprinkle it where the jets are. That'll get it circulating a little bit better. So we retested, and maybe my pH is actually a little bit high, but you're trying for between 7.2 and 7.8 if possible. That's ideal. If you want to be really picky about it, you could now drain some water and put a little more water in so that your pH isn't so high, but I'm going to go ahead with this. Okay, this part is optional, but it's always a good idea to scrub this scuzzy area above the water level. And just because we're about to flock, why not do it now, right? So just get the water up there, scrub it now. Scrub it before you put the flocculent in, because you don't really want to touch the water once the flocculent's in there. So just go all around the pool, and you probably also want to take like your pool brush and scrub the floor and the sides of the pool. Let's just get all the garbage out in one sitting. Now the next part is not optional. You're going to want to take your hose and get it in the pool before you put the flock in, because well, I'll show you tomorrow why we don't want to do it after you put the flock in. The easiest way, and you want to make sure there's no air in the hose, so the easiest way to do that is just to hold it up by the jet until you can make sure, like, you can sort of see the hose getting heavier, going underwater, and there's water coming out the other end now. Thank you to Colton for teaching me that little trick. Okay, this is a really important part. Before we put the flock in, I've turned the jets off, and I'm gonna go over to my filter, and I'm gonna put it on recirculate over here. That makes sure that you're just using the pump portion of the equipment, and none of the flocky water is going to make it into the filter, because flocculent is not good for filters, okay? So just make sure we're gonna leave that on recirculate, and then we're gonna put our flock into the pool. So I can turn my jets back on. I just usually do it over here by the thing, but you can also, if you have breakers nearby, that's another way you can do it. All right, so before we put the flocculent in, we have to figure out how much to put in. This is why you need to know how many gallons your pool has. So I can see here in the measurements, there are 3 different areas where it measures. We've got for light application, like if it's not too bad, medium, and really heavy, like if your pool is full of gunk. Now our pool is about 6,000 gallons. So what I'm gonna take is this 15,000 number and just divide it by 3. And then top up a little bit, right? So if we were doing the light application, I would use 1/4 of a gallon. But that would be for 15,000, right? So then 1/4 of a gallon is 32 ounces, because a gallon is 128 ounces. Divide 32 by 3, and that's 12 ounces. But it's not really light, and it's probably more medium, right? So, but that's a big step up between 1/4 and 1. So basically, I use this cup. That's just what I always use. I think it's probably about 1.5 cups total. I usually fill it up to almost the rim, and it works. All right, so I've got my flocculent, I've got my jets on recirculation, or rather my filter on recirculation, so it's only going through the pump, not the filter. I've got my hose just hanging out in the pool. It kind of looks like it's plugged in, but it's not plugged in to the filter. It's just floating around in there. And I'm just going to distribute the flocculent sort of along where the jets are. And I'm gonna let them do their job. And spread that stuff throughout the pool. And I'm gonna leave this running just like this for about an hour. So I forgot, it's we might as well get this part under the water too, so that we're ready for tomorrow. So in this case, we put, it's always, you gotta make sure you don't take it out of the water so that it's still full of water. And so I'm just gonna put this on the first step here and join my blue part in. And I might as well connect up my stick to this thing too. Again, you wanna keep it in the water. And then tomorrow, when everything's like all flocked up and ready to go, this thing's gonna be ready. And there is one more step, and I'm worried it's gonna be dark here by the time it happens. But basically when the jets are done running, I'm gonna wanna plug the white part into the filter. And that's an important step. But yeah, it might be dark, so that's, maybe I'll just demonstrate how it would look now. And I'm getting a little flocky stuff, flocky water on my hands. I am gonna rinse my hands and legs because I don't think it's very good for us. Ollie. So we take the basket out. I'm not sure how well you can see down there. And I don't know if all pools are the same, but in our case, it's this hole that's farthest from the pool, and this fits quite nicely in there. I would be like really pushing it in there, but right now I'm just letting my flock run all over the place. And that's it. That's the next step. And after I've had an hour of circulating all of this flock, I'm going to turn the jets off, and I'm just gonna leave it for at least 8 hours, probably more like 12. Okay, so one more optional part, mimosas or the cocktail of your choice. But no, there's actually another important part for this, and that is if your pool's on a timer, you need to completely turn it off, because you don't want the pump to start running in the morning when all of your flock has settled. That would really suck. So yeah, just make sure that however your timer is set up, if you have a timer, that it's like deactivated. I turn mine off at the breaker, and Mimosas. Okay, I just thought of one more important thing, and that is the water level in your pool. I've got mine as high as I can get it because tomorrow, when all of the flocculent has settled, we're going to be vacuuming to waste, which means our water level will drop. So now's a great time to get it filled as much as possible. Well, this is the moment I've been waiting for. It feels like Christmas morning. You don't see it as well from here, but all of the sediment in the pool has clumped together and settled to the bottom. So you'll really see it around the edges and on the steps. And we're just gonna be able to vacuum all of that up. And you can see it on the little seats too. Everything's crystal clear. All right, we're gonna check this out. We got a big, huge cicada. So I'm just gonna fish that out. Look at that guy. Bye. Okay, now, here's a step that I found to be important. In here. In this particular configuration, this fatter tube is the floor drain, and this one is the filter. So I'm gonna close the floor drain so that we get way more suction from just the filter. And now I'm gonna switch this thing so that we go to waste. That means all the stuff that I vacuum up is going out. And now we're gonna turn the breakers back on. Look at that. You gotta go really slowly so that you don't disturb all this stuff. And it's important to watch that water level just to see, make sure that it doesn't get too low, because otherwise you're gonna be vacuuming nothing. So I watch that and make sure it's no more than like, I don't know, 3 tiles below that floor drain that's over there.
Wall drain.
Wall drain, I mean. Thank you. Okay, so I noticed that my water level was like getting low. That's where I look to keep track, but it's also like to do with this filter. I want to make sure that there's water in there. So I've turned it off, and now instead of having this thing on waste, I'm going to put it to closed. I have found that it continues draining if I don't. Oh, I shut it off, by the way, before I did that. I've got my breakers off. And in this case, we can actually fill our pool by just turning this thing, and it'll fill in about 10 minutes. We'll just watch the water level come up. You can see that it's already looking a whole bunch better. There is still some scuzz on the seats, which has been somewhat disturbed. So I'm just like pushing the scuzz down. I'll let it settle with all the other stuff that I have stirred up. This is so hard to video. Tom had to go to a meeting. Just sort of kick that scuzz off, and then we'll let it settle onto the ground. We can see there's a whole bunch of stuff still behind the seats that I didn't get to. And there's some other stuff floating around in the water too. It just sort of does get stirred up. I don't know if you can see that, but we'll find that we'll need to do a second pass, maybe even a third pass. But it's already looking so much better. I'm just trying to capture the particulate that's still in the water. You can at least see the shadow of it here. I don't have my glasses on, so I don't know if you can actually see what's in the water, but all of this stuff needs a minute, well, several hours to sink back to the bottom again, and then we're gonna do a final sweep. Okay, so I topped up the water level. I left my vacuum plugged in because I knew that there would still be a few little areas that need to be vacuumed. And there's actually quite a lot over there. I didn't do much around the seats. So I'm gonna give that another run, and then I'm gonna give it a few hours to settle again, because I can see there's a little particulate in the water, and then I'll do it again a few hours later. And there's Junie. Hi, Junie. Hi. Just to be clear, I've got this thing on closed while I was filling it. So before I vacuum, I'm gonna have to put it over to waste, like that. And then I will turn my breakers on and I'll start vacuuming, but I don't have a videographer to show the vacuuming process, plus we know what that looks like. I just wanted to get this shot for the after. Just look how beautiful and clean it is. And here's the backdrop. So there you go. It actually ended up taking a couple days because I had a couple of days, but you can usually do it in like a 24-hour period.